Hello and welcome along to this very special episode of the Edie Extra podcast. I'm Edie's publisher, Luke Nichols, and this is no ordinary episode of Edie's spin-off podcast because I'm excited to say, in almost 10 years of running the show, we have our very first podcast takeover of sorts because rather than enduring the dulcet tones of Edie's editorial team, this episode is brought to you by Springwise, a newly acquired arm of the Edie portfolio. We'll explain who they are in a moment. And not only that, but the episode has crossed the pond because we're coming at you live from Paris. I mean, I say live, but I suppose we're being recorded here and edited, but you get the picture. We're here on the ground at the magnificent Grand Palais Events Hall. So think London XL, but 10 times bigger and 10 times more glamorous. And we're here at the climate innovation mega event that is ChangeNow. I've been working for Edie for almost a decade now, and I've been to many events in my time, including several COPs, but I can honestly say this is one of the biggest climate events I've ever been to. There are apparently over 40,000 attendees here for 3 days in April, representing over 10,000 companies. And over the past few years, the event has scaled up to become the global event for climate innovation and environmental and social solutions to some of the planet's biggest problems. There are over 1,000 climate innovations and solutions spread out across the show floor around us, and that is where the Springwise team comes in, because I'm delighted to be joined here by Springwise's dynamic duo that is commissioning editor Matt Hempstead and content editor Matilda Cox. Matt, hello. Before we go any further with the show, for the uninitiated listeners among us, who are Springwise and what's the connection into Edie and into an event like this?
Well, bonjour. So Springwise, we call ourselves a global innovation discovery platform. We're focused specifically on positive impact innovation, and what that means in practice is we like to tell the stories of startups mostly, but also university innovation, basically anyone who's making creating a new solution that is having a beneficial impact, whether that's climate, a lot of our innovations to do with sustainability, but also some social innovation as well, and things like education and health, especially when it's to do with things like digital health and health tech as well. So that is why we're here, what we do on a daily basis, and I think why that's relevant to Edie is that we increasingly want to kind of explore how these kind of solutions that we surface from a Springwise point of view can effectively help corporates, other organisations reach their climate targets, their sustainability strategies. And deep delving into how that actually works in practice. So events like ChangeNow today are really interesting and important for us because they bring together a whole ecosystem. So you've got the startups themselves, but you also have a load of corporates, a load of investors, and a load of other people who have things that they can do to help and support these amazing innovators that we have. I think there's over 1,000 solutions involved in ChangeNow, which is amazing.
Yeah, so I guess it's sort of like Earthshot Prize in terms of the kind of innovations that feature within the Springwise Innovation Library, and Springwise is in fact an official nominator of Earthshot. So if you're not already a Springwise member, it's a shameless plug, but you really should be if you want to be at the forefront of climate innovation. We'll include links within the episode page here on Edie. And so bringing us back here to Paris, to the Grand Palais, and this very special podcast episode, Matilda, you're really the driving force of Springwise's editorial coverage here at ChangeNow over the next couple of days. Explain the Springwise tie-in here, and also just give us a flavour for where we're stood right now and this event.
So this is my second ChangeNow in person, but my first one back at the Grand Palais, and it really is an incredible venue. I mean, it's absolutely enormous. The buzz already is amazing. You can tell everyone's really excited to be here, looking forward to the event. Looking around, as Matt mentioned, there's so many different solutions from all different kind of sectors, categories. So we've got positive impact AI, first responders, circular economy, oceans, a lot of familiar faces that we featured on Springwise. So it's really nice to kind of put a face to the name on our website. We've been partners with ChangeNow for a few years now, so media partner since 2020, and then also for the last couple of years we've been major ecosystem partner as well. So we've become even more embedded in the kind of ChangeNow ecosystem, getting the opportunity to kind of learn more about the event. We help them put together their newsletter, listen to all the panels, and yeah, it's just really exciting to be here again.
Yeah, it's an extremely relevant and timely event, whether you're a kind of edie fan or a Springwise fan, I guess, and lots to cover in this kind of hybrid episode. So we're going to be looking at which climate innovations are going to be the most crucial in this decisive decade for the planet. How can those innovations be kind of effectively scaled up and deployed by corporates to accelerate the net zero transition in particular? And how can we bridge those gaps that exist between corporates and innovators and investors through events like this? So lots of questions to answer and so little time, so we're going to get into our interviews. Matt, I believe you're kind of holding the podcast baton today and running all of the interviews, so tell us who we've got lined up, or who you know we've got lined up so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So Matilda's going to be doing the hard work of putting the newsletter together, and I'm going to be something of a roving reporter throughout the event. So I'm really going to be looking at the question of scaling innovation from different angles and different perspectives. So I'm going to be talking to an artist who's working with mycelium. His name's Combe D'Amelio. So looking at it from maybe a slightly left field point of view from what we're used to in terms of corporate sustainability. Then I'm going to be talking to the Rabo Foundation about how you can support and scale up innovation from that point of view. I'm speaking to Emanuela Verrucha, Impact Manager. And then I'm going to be talking to someone who's been very involved in open innovation from a corporate perspective for a long time, and is basically has an amazing knowledge and experience with this, and lots of advice to give to startups and corporates in terms of that collaboration piece. And that's Roman Megler, Group Open Innovation Director for Sodexo. So a very well-known company over here in France, involved in food services and facilities management. So I'm really excited for those. Of course, we love startups here as well, so I'm going to be looking through and talking to all the solutions that we have here, and who knows, I might come and find someone else who would be worth having a talk to give that perspective as well.
You just gave me a look as if there's a sort of mystery fourth interview coming up, so we'll stay tuned for that. Just quickly then, so we're going to get into those four interviews. Mycelium, just for anyone that's uninitiated on that one, before we get into this first chat, just a very brief elevator pitch for what that is.
Yeah, so mycelium, they're kind of like the root-like parts of the fungi, except that they're actually the vast majority of the fungi itself is the mycelium, and the mushrooms we see are only the sort of the fruiting body. The reason why that's interesting from an innovation point of view, as well as obviously mycology, which is the study of fungi, is that we're seeing a lot of innovations at the moment that are using it in different ways. So as a material for the construction industry, but also for sort of pharmaceuticals as well, and also involved in things like pollution remediation too. So it's a very sort of trendy topic in our innovation world. So it'll be and something that people get very enthusiastic about. So hopefully that will come through in the interview.
Yeah, well, looking forward to hearing it. So let's get into this interview relay now. So when you next hear from me and us at the end of this show, it will be nearing the close of ChangeNow, and we'll probably all be sounding and looking a lot more knackered than we are now. But before that, first up, here's Matt's chat with Combe D'Amelio, the artist from My Cosmos, associated with mycelium. Now.
Hello, so I am, as I've mentioned at the top of the show, I am now here on the shop floor, as it were, of ChangeNow, and I'm next to an amazing piece of mycelium artwork, and I'm actually here with the artist, Combe D'Amelio. So I kind of just want to start by, in your own words, getting you to tell me a little bit about what it looks like, the idea behind it, and what you're hoping to achieve from it.
So My Cosmos is a circular space. It's a half circle made of benches made of mycelium with a curved mycelium panel that is meant to host human connection through the binding power of mycelium.
Well, that's very exciting. So I know this is obviously, you're an artist, this is an art installation, but there's lots of different stakeholders involved with this project, from MicroWorks to a biotech company and universities as well. And from your point of view, how can art like this help to drive change in maybe a more commercial sphere or in the, outside the world of art?
So I was drawn to mycelium both for its ecological aspect. It's an incredible carbon negative means of construction, but it's also beautiful aesthetically and sensorially. So I really believe that new materials, ecological materials, can really benefit the environment, but also the human environment. And that means that when you're in contact with this material, you really want to open up because you want to touch it, you want to feel it. It has all these very different warm colors, and I shape into these curved and enveloping shapes. So I believe it's really it fosters deeper connection. It awakes something very primordial inside of us. So it's a particularly heightened state of awareness, which is very favorable to deeper interactions. So not only is it ecological and a good way of replacing more polluting materials, but it also benefits our interior human ecology.
So what are really the next steps from a project like this to then get that to maybe get other people to take up the idea of mycelium as a material and to then get that into more projects, and how do you see your role in facilitating that?
So I believe it's really understanding this place of new material and how they can really change the world and how we can make them more desirable, because I believe these warm organic materials have much more benefit than cold mineral and artificial and synthetic materials. And once you get more and more into contact with them, you start to understand and feel that you don't want to go back to inert and cold materials, and that is just obvious way of the future.
They're obviously very strong on art as a driver of change here in ChangeNow. What's it feel like to you to be here, and what do you want anyone who's attended today to take away, the one thing you want them to take away about mycelium?
It's that this new relationship to objects, to aesthetic, and to our sensorial approach to our environment is really key to feeling connected every day to the feeling of interdependence. And that being connected every day to this feeling, for me, is the only way to face the challenges that we're facing today.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Combe. I'm moving on now from the world of art into a more of a commercial construction space with my next interview. So in my last interview, I spoke about one specific innovative solution, mycelium, and now I'm talking to someone who has experience supporting lots of solutions across multiple continents. Emanuela Verrucha is Impact Manager at the Rabo Foundation, and I think maybe if you just start, Emanuela, if you could tell us perhaps about your role and what the foundation does.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I work as an impact manager at Rabo Foundation. Rabo Foundation is a corporate foundation of Rabobank. So Rabobank is one of the biggest agricultural banks across the world. So what we do at Rabo Foundation, of course, relates a lot to the mission and the core of the bank, also the cooperative nature and the cooperative ideals of the bank, but also in terms of the agricultural transition and all the transitions that we need to really make happen urgently. What we do at Rabo Foundation is that we really focus on providing loans to smallholder farmers. So we also focus on the agricultural sector, but we do that not in developed countries, but in the developing countries. So we do that in several countries across the world, in several countries in Latin America, Africa, but also Asia. And we support their different types of organizations that directly then work to benefit smallholder farmers. So our mission is to really provide the necessary capital to these early stage organizations to really then support the farmers and help them improve their livelihoods. So in essence, we finance several cooperatives and agri-SMEs, but also increasingly now agtechs and fintechs, because we really see the importance of innovation and of really offering these products and services to the farmers. And now also we have expanded our portfolio in terms of microfinance institutions, because that is also another big gap that we see in the market, but also in terms of the needs of the farmers, that they really need credit and not just the linkage to the ag companies.
So can you tell me a little bit more about the relationship with the main bank? How does that work?
So, of course, we're an independent entity, so we have our own status, but at the same time, we're very lucky to be connected to the bank. We receive funding from the bank, so we're very fortunate to receive that funding that then we can use to really maximize our impact and deploy even more financing every year. And at the same time, of course, we can benefit from the expertise of the bank, because there is immense expertise within the bank in the sector that we're active. And what we're also trying to do more and more is to really see the bank as maybe the future financier of our clients. So we really help early stage companies to give them a boost, to get started, to professionalize and mature. And we hope to one day, of course, see them receiving commercial funding.
So you focus on debt financing. Could you tell us a little bit about your model and why you think that is the best model for what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So we are a foundation, and then many people would think that we mainly do grants, but actually we do focus on loans and debt financing. This is a switch that happened already several years ago, because we really did see that creates a different relationship with the organizations that we finance, right? So we really see that we can really fulfill specific needs of the clients by focusing on debt, and that are also very distinct needs compared to, for example, other structures like equity. We can, of course, then also cater to really short-term and urgent financial needs that they might have, provide working capital loans that they can use in the short term, but also, for example, loans for specific, harvest cycles that we can really help them at the right time, at the time that they need it the most, and in some cases also through, for example, trade finance structures.
So we've obviously got a lot of solutions here at ChangeNow. What is your advice to all the amazing founders out there from someone who's obviously worked with a lot of innovative solution providers?
Yeah, I think there is really an immense amount of really great solutions here, and I think it's really evident that solutions are out there, and we just need to implement them. We just need to get to practice, to practical implementation. I think maybe one little piece of advice that I could give is that it's really important to remember why they're doing what they're doing, to really stick to their mission and why they started their companies, what is the main problem that they're trying to solve, and really try to really stick to that, defend their mission, defend their values, and even, when different investors come in with different requirements, not compromise on that.
So stick to your guns a little bit. And just on the other side of it, do you have any advice for people within corporates when you're working with innovative companies? Like, what's the best way to work with them?
Yeah, I think it's really important there to find a common ground and to understand each other, because sometimes, of course, people have very different experiences, different interests sometimes, and also different understanding of topics. So I think it's really important to make that effort to understand each other and understand, where they're coming from, and then try to work together towards, something that's mutually beneficial.
Fantastic. Just to finish off, what's one thing you're particularly optimistic about coming out of today's event?
I think I would like to say that I'm optimistic about all the energy that I'm seeing, and especially given the recent geopolitical developments and climate that can be quite gloomy and quite negative, that still I see that there is a lot of hope, a lot of optimism that we can cling to, and also a lot of desire to keep on going, and also not back down.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much, Emanuela. I'm going to go off and actually have a look at some of these solutions in the solution section of ChangeNow, and who knows who I'll find. So we have a bonus interview for you here now. So we've spoken to artists, we've spoken to corporates, but now we want to maybe get the startup perspective in all this, seeing as we're talking about startups a lot of the time anyway. So I have here Brett Cotton from Arda Biomaterials. So they're doing some really interesting stuff, turning waste into value. So I'm going to let him explain that rather than me. First of all, Brett, if you just want to tell us a little bit about what you do.
Thank you, Matthew. So at Arda Biomaterials, we transform waste streams into new kinds of polymers and materials that don't have animals and don't have plastic. And the first feedstock that we're working with is the waste barley grain, or called spent grain or draff, from beer breweries and whiskey distilleries. And what we're able to do is take the protein that is left over once the brewers extract sugar, and these plant-based proteins we can manipulate into structures that mimic animal proteins like collagen found in skin, but can also replace plastic. So we're able to create these new materials that don't have animals, don't have plastic, and can offer a third option.
You're here today with lots of other solutions at ChangeNow. I know a lot of you are going to be wanting to scale your solutions in various ways. So one of the ways you do that obviously is by partnering with corporates. Do you have a take on what you think works best in terms of corporate startup collaboration?
One point of frustration that is changing is a lot of corporates don't have the right scientific teams or innovation teams in-house to really understand the different approaches. So in our case, in the first industry that we're working in, we're making leather-like materials. There's been about 3 to 4 different waves of technical innovations trying to solve the problem of animal leather and plastic leather. But time and time again, we found that brands, they try something, doesn't work, the bridge gets burned, and then they're hesitant to try again. So unless a corporate has the right team in-house and the right knowledge in-house to really understand the different technical approaches, their variations in how they scale, it's difficult to get them to a place of comfortability when you're not yet ready to go to market. What innovators need is this internal know-how and belief in where you will get to and can help get you there, rather than waiting for something that is ready to go right away. Because the fact is, materials innovation takes years.
So how do teams go about that? Is that just a case of diversifying their hiring? Is it? I mean, I know we've got the jobs fair here at ChangeNow this weekend. I mean, how do you go about making sure that corporates have that expertise in-house?
Yeah, I mean, we look to corporates that already have that in-house because we're not able to change whether they have that or not. So the way to get that internal belief is by telling great stories. Right, you have a really strong understanding of the different technical approaches, and you can help do their homework for them a bit. And you can also, people buy into who you are, what you're building, and why. And so we share why we started the company, why our technology is special, why our supply chain is special, the grand vision, and where we're at today and how we get there. So we look for corporates that are comfortable with R&D and joint development and small showcases or small limited collections with the grand vision and shared belief that we will get to millions and millions of meters of material and at really great price points. But we just need to have this shared vision together in order to begin a working relationship.
I will pick up on something you said just then, which is something that's been playing around in my mind a bit, talking to a lot of startups, which is the whole stereotype of a startup. Maybe the old Silicon Valley stereotype where it's move fast and break things. So you're not the first person I've spoken to today who says you almost suffer a hangover from other solutions maybe coming to market too quickly in the past, and that when you come in with something better, it's then harder to get over that previous bad experience. I mean, is that how you found it, or am I putting words in your mouth by saying that?
It's definitely the case with quite a few brands or manufacturers. We've come across ones that have tried different materials that were greenwashed and didn't actually live up to the promises. I mean, investors get tricked themselves. Hundreds of millions of dollars have gone into companies that ultimately failed to scale or completely collapsed altogether. And what we try to do now is learn from those that come before us and appreciate the work they've done and just have a honest foundation of here's where we're at, here's where we're going, here are the ingredients that we use, and we don't intend to spoil anyone's belief. We're trying to be pretty straight shooting and also share the different approaches that are out there in market and how we're different. Ultimately, a lot of big chemicals companies, a lot of fashion brands, they're trying their hand at innovating in spaces like materials. And to be honest, I'm always a bit shocked because they come out with materials that are 40% plastic, yet they have enormous amounts of resources, and they still don't really measure up to what some of these small companies are doing with barely any funding and incredibly tiny teams.
Just finally, what's the one thing that gives you optimism?
Yeah, I love connecting with other founders. So I'd encourage, you go to different events and a lot of corporate VCs, they'll just end up chatting to each other. But connecting with founders, you're able to get a lot of optimism because they're raising funding in this really difficult environment. It's always nice to see each other at different events. There's always good news. Different brands are launching things. So even though it may not be your company, there's others that are paving the way alongside.
Well, thanks very much, Brett. I mean, we always love to hear those notes of optimism. So I'm going to go off and walk around the rest of ChangeNow and see if I can find any other bonus interviewees. Thank you very much, Brett. So we've had lots of interesting conversations here today at ChangeNow. We've talked to artists, we've talked to startups, and now I'm here to talk to someone who knows lots and lots about open innovation and about collaboration between startups and corporates, and that is Roman Megler, an Open Innovation Director for Sodexo. So I'm going to start by just explaining a little bit what open innovation means to you.
Hi, Matthew. So my role is really to connect the dots between the objectives of startups and such stakeholders as large groups, as Sodexo is. Because Sodexo is today one of the largest French-owned, companies, French-based companies in the world. It's 423k employees in 45 countries, and we have on a daily basis, we have 80 million customers. So it's really, it's about the people. We have a lot of people in the company. It's more than several large companies together, right? And most of our activities today is in the US, actually, but we are originally based in France, and we scale globally. So when you have a massive entity like a corporate like this, it's hugely critical to manage to coordinate innovation. Otherwise, each region, each site maybe will test something on its own, won't give any feedback, won't share the feedback with others, and some other site, some other people will do the exact same thing, coming to another conclusion or the same conclusion, but without, again, any best practices or worst practices sharing. So it's really important to scout for the best startups to address the pain points that are shared globally or locally. So global is an approach we have in the Sodexo company because we have a regional model. Regional model meaning that each region is really accountable for its own projects and operations, but it's coordinated at a global level. So regions are their CEOs, their own CEOs. But we have to coordinate the efforts so they can reach their objectives sooner. So we try to map the pain points of operations all across, again, the world, the segments, the regions, and we try to have like a catalog or portfolio of solutions that could scale in their region, in their segment, and then we try to accompany them to do so. So it's really about scouting a maximum of solutions that are relevant to the group or part of the group and know where it fits in the whole global ecosystem of Sodexo. Sodexo is well known for its food operations worldwide, but actually 40% of the activity of the operations are FM related. FM meanings facility management. So we just operate places, venues. We operated the Olympics, for example, the Olympic Village for the athletes. So we didn't just give food to employees. We also provide the workplace experience that they must have each day. So we work also on the workplace of the future, not only the food operations or alternative proteins or new ingredients, very food-oriented innovations. We also work on this workplace of the future notion. It's really important in our work.
So, responding to that, one of the things that I think is interesting is how do you get that discipline when you've got lots of different what are the challenges to instilling that discipline about innovation? Because it's something we hear a lot, that everyone has a pet project, a pet idea, and they're really enthusiastic about it, and you don't want to kill the enthusiasm, but also you have to have that framework. What's your experience with that? Do you have any sort of tips?
So first of all, you have to have some respect, a huge amount of respect for the teams that create such a project. If they are creating the project, it's because they had a pain point in the first place. So it's really important to interact a maximum with the teams on the field to understand the pain points. So it could be operational innovation, tactical innovation, could be strategic innovation. Doesn't matter. What does matter is you have to understand why they did that if they didn't, coordinate with you in the first place. And then maybe you can cross it with other pain points that are converging to the same topic. So now you know that you have a topic that is worth addressing, right? And then you have to respond to that by saying, okay, thank you. Maybe you can explain when you launched that. Did you know that we already tested that somewhere? Maybe you didn't know. And a lot of the time we discover that pilots are ongoing somewhere in the world. That's okay. We just need to know why. And please share the feedback. So we hop on this piloting experience and we try to coordinate the maximum. For the teams that will ask us for advice before launching the pilot, we say, okay, these are the pilots that for us address the pain point that you are addressing us for. Maybe we can look into it and maybe find the perfect solution for you guys so we can work together. So we try, you have to be, to respond to your more directly to your question, you have to be agile, you have to adapt to the situation. We do bottom-up innovation and we do top-down innovation. We have the vision of the group, but we can't do without resolving the bottom-up pain points. We have to work with the field. Otherwise, you will push for solutions that nobody wants, and you will just have pushbacks, right? So to avoid pushbacks, you have to work closely with the teams on the field. That's hugely important. So maybe it will take some time. Maybe it will take more time than if you really push a top-down approach, but it will have less pushback and you will have a higher success rate, actually. So we try to combine the two. It's not easy in terms of governance, for example. You have to have an agile and adapted governance that fits your model. But if you manage to unlock that, and I think a lot of corporates are working on that, it's really a lever of huge engagement from the employees and the managers, all the teams actually.
So we have a lot of solutions and a lot of founders here today at ChangeNow. I'm sure you've spoken to a few of them. A lot of them are quite young, which is quite inspiring. But what would your advice be to someone who, such as the startups exhibiting here, how do you work best with a corporate such as Sodexo?
So today we have a very well-curated selection of startups here today at ChangeNow. It's always impressive to see all the startups we don't know, but luckily we have some we already know and work with. So some of them we scale, some of them we are still testing or piloting somewhere, and some of them we still didn't get the opportunity to test them. And some of them we assessed and we won't be working with them today, but that's okay. We just need to see if there's a moment in the future that such a time comes, right? So if I had an advice, it would be really because I spent 20 years in this sector, innovation for big corporates. So I would have two main advice. The first one would be very clear when working with the corporate about what your expectations are when you are a startup. Do not adapt too much of your expectations just to work with the corporate. Otherwise, you will lose your value, you will use your roadmap, and you will get diluted in their roadmap, and you will pivot, and you won't remember where you are living, right? Where your home is. So be true to yourself and just say to the corporate, okay, I'm at this point, I need this. So if we have converging interest, I'm sure that we can succeed in proving a very simple thing, is that my solution works in this use case. So keep it simple, right? Your value is this one. A lot of the startups we meet say, oh, but we could do a use case for you. We could do this and that. And the possibilities are endless. This triggers, for me, a warning. Possibilities are endless is not a good sentence for a corporate open innovation guy like me to hear from a startup. That's because you don't want endless possibilities. You want to do something well, and then we'll see if we can do something else with you. So that's a good for pitch to a VC, for example. But for a corporate, if he's not a VC, if he's looking for a use case, practical use case, you as a startup have to understand his pain point, your potential client pain point, and address it like with a laser, right? You have to just focus on that. And you have this problem, we can solve this problem. And then you'll see, we'll add features. We will become your best partner. We will become your friend as a corporate. Second advice is be very conscious about the timelines. Your timeline is not the same as a big corporate. Big corporate partners' timelines are maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years. In a year, you don't know as a startup if you will still be alive. So it's so difficult. So again, try to identify projects, 3 months, 6 months project to prove something, maybe a tech feasibility, maybe a MVP, maybe a POC, maybe a pilot. Choose your poison, but choose one and stick to it so you can prove to your corporate partner that you can build trust with them. They can build trust with you. And then you can go from there, because supply, compliance, legal, you name it, there's a lot of blockers that the corporate partners, even if interested, will have to go through to work with you on a scaled approach. That's what we try to do. We try to prove POCs, we try to run successful pilots with feedback that we share globally, and then we try to understand and identify where we can use a solution, pilot a solution, and in our company, a pilot can be like 2 regions. It can be huge, but it's still a pilot, right? It's not scaled globally. So we have to be very careful about the next step. I like to, it's like a dent in a cog. You go to the next dent and the next dent, and at the end of it, the machine is working, right? But at the beginning of it, you just focus on the first dent. Otherwise, the cog will spin in the void. It's going to be useless. So that's my approach of the whole relationship with the startup.
So we've just got a couple of minutes left. So what I will ask you to do is just to give me one thing that you're particularly optimistic about in terms of coming out of this event and in terms of the innovation you're seeing at the moment.
So I'm an optimistic guy by nature, right? I'm also a geneticist by nature. So I'm kind of actually my resume has some ecology in it. So I'm optimistic, and you have to be optimistic in CSR and in innovation, because you have to be resilient, right? You have to focus on the 1%, the 10%, the 20% project that will make it through, because it's better than nothing, and you can build on that. And then at the end of the road only, you will see what you've accomplished, built with the partner or the startup, and it's really about building relationships. So I'm really optimistic about the fact that it's really a liveful, fruitful array of startups that we see today on many topics that are clearly identified today. So I'm clearly optimistic about the value they bring to the companies and to the society in itself.
Well, man, thanks very much for your time. I think that was a really optimistic way to end what's been a great trip here at ChangeNow. So thanks once again, and I hope you have a very good rest of your time here.
And there you have it. Thank you very much to our 4 excellent guests there. Coman D'Amelio from MyCosmos, Emanuela Varrocha from Rabo Foundation, Brett Cotton from Arda Biomaterials, and Romain Meglev from Sodexo. And thanks, of course, to Matt and Matilda for running the show and seamlessly weaving those interviews together. And we're not quite finished yet, because Matt, Matilda and I have reunited here at the end of the second day of ChangeNow. Matt, hello, how have you found it?
Well, it's been amazing. I'd say the first takeaway is just the scale of it. The Grand Palais is, as a venue, it lives up to its name. It is palatial, but also it's amazing to see so many people show up for a sustainability event and see so many passionate people. So that's my first takeaway. In terms of like my more substantive points of what I've taken away from today, the first is the breadth of the solutions. So a lot of the on-stage speakers have spoken about how we don't just have a carbon crisis, but we have lots of interconnected crises. And actually a lot of them, like aging population, for example, interact with sustainability in ways we don't necessarily always think. So I've spoken to startups that are working on simplifying the process for assessing the risk of stroke, for example. So really interesting to see that breadth of solutions. The second thing to pick up is actually about skills and partnerships, and the skills we need to make partnerships work. So it's come up uncannily often in my conversations at this event about how, because we have so many different solutions, that the breadth of skill sets that companies who want to scale innovation need is so much greater today. You know, construction companies need to understand about mycelium, for example. Chemical companies need to understand about biology in new ways. So I think it's really interesting that the ChangeNow have added this jobs fair element to the event this year. So, and having spoken to people, I can see why that's important. And then finally, just to go and end on a positive note, obviously there's a bit of awareness that the geopolitical solution is maybe less than optimal at the moment for climate action and sustainability, and people do accept that. I think on stage, Josh Ford of Enviral, who is a sustainability communications agency, put it quite nicely. He said sustainability is in a bit of a winter period at the moment, but having said all that, you can't really leave here without a sense of optimism. Just to see so many solutions in one place is amazing, and also I think when founders get together, they just really bump off each other and create an amazing buzz and amazing energy. So those are my sort of potted takeaways from the event. But yeah, just amazing to be here in Paris. I love a bistro as well, so it's been great to have that side of it too.
Yeah, there's plenty of those around the venue here. Matilda, it's been a non-stop couple of days for yourself as well. What's been your kind of key takeaways?
I mean, I'd echo what Matt said. The atmosphere at ChangeNow is it's really special, and it's very difficult to leave here without feeling really optimistic despite everything that's going on. I think I've been listening to as many talks as I possibly could the past couple of days, and I'd say two of my key takeaways is 10 years on from the Paris Agreements. That's obviously been a really central theme, and as much as the speakers have been kind of celebrating the progress that we've made in terms of climate action, they've also been kind of reiterating how important it is that we don't lose that momentum and kind of keep going with producing these solutions, scaling these solutions. And then also I think the diversity of voices is something that always comes through at ChangeNow, but particularly this year. So when you look around at the startups and all the speakers, there are so many kind of young voices in their early 20s and then also teens as well. So it's amazing to see kind of that celebrated and how much more sort of energy that brings to solutions and climate action.
Yeah, so much gone on, and it's a really good point. 10 years on from the Paris Agreement, it's quite a fitting time to all be talking. And actually, on that note, rounding off this episode, I'm delighted to say we've just been joined by none other than Springwise's former CEO and chair, James Bidwell, one of the, I guess, fathers of climate innovation media, if you want to put it that way, and a long-time friend and partner of Edie's, and a man who's been very much in high demand, speaking here on the stages here at ChangeNow. James, hello, thanks for joining us to round off the show. Tell us a bit about your ChangeNow experience.
Well, first of all, it's great to be with you guys and to see you all here in Paris, and it's lovely to see Springwise playing such a big part in ChangeNow. You know, we're a major ecosystem partner on the top of the notice boards out there, and as you said, Springwise has been involved in ChangeNow for I think 6 years now, and the last time I was here in the Grand Palais, I remember coming in and thinking this looks like Springwise as an event, and since then it's really, really grown to be, I think, the most powerful global event for the planet. I think it's safe to say that. I think we're looking out in the Grand Palais here, and there are, I think, 74 flags representing 74 different countries, so they've really got a very global ecosystem here. And over the past couple of days, we've seen very many layers of committed cohorts to this agenda. So you've got the politicians, you've got the investors, you've got the startups, you've got the NGOs, you've got the activists, a really strong youth voice, which is important. There's a whole education stream. And I think what the ChangeNow team have managed to do is to kind of bring all of that together into an event that allows you to see the breadth and the depth of what's happening. And without a doubt, as Matt and Matilda have said, it is hopeful. However, we are in a bit of a bubble here because we're all committed and agree, and the rest of the world is not moving fast enough. So I think the big thing for us is to really take action in the small things we can do, and also for the corporates who are not here. And actually, let's face it, the big corporates aren't here. The ones with the big money, the Magnificent Seven, not one of them is in sight, and they need to change, and the money needs to come into helping the world become a better place, and this is now urgent. So I'm optimistic, but underneath it all, we have to go out and do something, and of course the edie community is perfect for that, because they are committing and they're mobilizing, and for all those CSOs, there's been amazing CSOs here, and it can be a lonely job, but we need to move and get our CEOs and CFOs to take action.
I have to ask you about that, really, because, as you say, you've been working in the climate innovation space for well over a decade yourself, so you've seen firsthand this kind of incredible surge of environmental and social innovations and growth in events like this. So a bit of a broad question, but back to that kind of corporate point you just touched on, what would be your kind of summary of the climate innovation space right now? Is innovation being kind of backed and deployed at the scale and pace we need? It sounds like a very weighted question, but what's your take on where things are at right now?
Well, I don't think it is going at the pace we need. I'm sure we probably all agree with that. But you do see examples of businesses that are doing amazing things. So I was talking with the IKEA Inca Group CSO on my panel yesterday, And what they're doing is extraordinary, and they're enabling that across their whole organization, across their customer base. But they're a private company. And I think there is a big difference here between private companies who can have a multi-generational approach and then corporates who are having to report to the markets every quarter, and really their shareholders don't care about anything apart from the money. And we need to slightly disconnect that and have a bit more of a strategic approach. But it's very, very difficult, and particular with the disruption that's going on across the Atlantic at the moment. It's hard to see how that might play out. But the one bit of hope I had was that although companies are maybe dialing down what they're saying about the climate, their approach to kind of accelerating the fight against climate change, they might be changing their comms, but underneath they're still doing it. And there are great examples of businesses that are making great progress. The other thing I would just quickly say, Luke, is that it's good to see other areas coming to the fore. So there's a big focus on ocean here at ChangeNow in 2025. There's a lot on biodiversity. Of course, it's all linked, but it allows spotlights to come through and sort of the non-obvious things to be talked about. So again, that's another great role for ChangeNow to convene and get those conversations on the table.
So lots of, I suppose, reasons for cautious optimism, I guess, and hope. And I guess on that note, just a final word from you, James. This must be quite a kind of humbling experience being back here with Matt, Matilda, the Springwise team after selling the brand onto Edie 6 or so months ago. What's your hope for the Springwise brand now that it is in the Edie fold?
Well, I'm delighted to meet up with you guys and to see Springwise in amazing hands. And that was my idea, was to make sure that Springwise and the team have a great home, and also that the reach, the breadth, the magic of Springwise can continue. Because it is a magical brand, and it has a magical raft of content built over many years, and a really important place in the ecosystem. And it's great to see that you guys are promoting that and keeping it going, and I know that Springwise will go from strength to strength. And by being here and supporting events like ChangeNow, as well as, of course, Edie, which is an amazing event, and I know we had quite a lot of innovation going on there, and that will grow. I'm delighted and excited, and it's my job is to help catalyze positive change, and I think that's what I'm doing.
Well, on that very positive note, that brings this special episode of the Edie Extra podcast to a close. A huge thanks once again to all of our podcast guests, to James here, and also to the ChangeNow organisers for inviting us out to this fantastic event. And I'll end by saying this is not the end, because hopefully the Springwise team will be back with more podcasts in the very near future, so watch this space. But for now, it's a goodbye from the Springwise team.
Bye. Au revoir.
And it's a goodbye from me. Goodbye.